Hello everyone, good afternoon and welcome to another online author talk collaboration between New South Wales Public Libraries. There are audiences in attendance today from over 30 different public libraries across New South Wales, and I just think it's an amazing collaborative effort. I have to say, I guess that it's probably one of the most positive things to come out of COVID, that we've able to connect this way with so many different communities that are also passionate about literacy and libraries. So it's just brilliant. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, which each of us are on today. I personally am on the Dharawal country. I pay respects to the Aboriginal elders, past, present and emerging, and I extend those respects to the other First Nations people. I celebrate the diversity of Aboriginal cultures and languages across Australia. Okay, everyone, sit back, relax. If you have a question for our lovely author today, please feel free to put it in the Q&A section at the bottom of your Zoom. We will answer the audience questions towards the end of the session. So my name is Holly Pirie, and I'm here from Shellharbour City Libraries today, and it is my pleasure to introduce the author that we have with us today, the international bestseller, Deborah Rodriguez. Now, Deborah has written 4 international bestsellers. 4 international bestsellers, amazing. And 2 memoirs about her experiences living and working abroad. Deborah is a hairdresser and business owner when, of course, she isn't writing captivating whirlwind adventures. And she's joining us today all the way from Mexico. So welcome, Deborah. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us today about your amazing life and exciting book.
I am absolutely thrilled to be here. I'm, like I said earlier when we were chit-chatting, I'm so impressed with the whole libraries all around Australia. You guys just really, really are amazing. And this library behind you, my goodness, I want to move to this place right there. That is amazing, amazing.
We are very lucky. We are blessed in this library. I come here every day and I'm brightened by being in this space. So we are lucky.
And it's gorgeous.
Books like this one, which will disappear when I move around too much, but your new exciting Moroccan Daughter. So I thought before we got started discussing this book though, that if it was okay with you, that we could talk a little bit more about you as a person, because once I started reading this book, I found out so much more about you. I started deep diving, and you have had a truly phenomenal life, can I say. I just can't get over the myriad of amazing places that you've visited, the things you've seen and done. So I thought maybe you could tell us a little bit about all those places and which one might be your favorite.
Wow, that's a big question. So I've traveled, I've always traveled. I think that, you know, a lot of people know me best by The Little Coffee Shop of Kabul, that book. So I spent 5 years in Afghanistan, and I co-founded a beauty school, and then later the coffee house, and put a coffee house in. And so I think that a lot of people know me from that. But working in Afghanistan for 5 years was probably one of the most life-changing things. I loved Afghanistan. I loved working there. I loved the culture. I wasn't crazy for the coffee, so therefore that's why we have a coffee shop. And I love teaching the women. There was something really, I don't know, the Afghan people have gone through so much, and there was this tenacity. There was this, they are survivors. They're resilient, and I learned from them. I thought, wow, here I am whining over, a broken fingernail or whatever. And they have gone through, decades of war. And so that changed my perspective on life. I still sometimes get a little annoyed when people are whining about things that like don't seem crucial really. And we're just like, wow, I wish that was, that's a pretty, the bus is late, or right. I mean,
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. Or your latte doesn't have, skinny milk in it or something. But you know what I mean? It's like it changed me that way. And to really appreciate some of the things that we take for granted every day. So, so Afghanistan is definitely one of the highlights of my life. And then I love Morocco. I mean, there is nothing, nothing literally I don't love about Morocco. And so having a book that takes place in Morocco is kind of like a dream come true for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it really is, because not only can I talk about a book, I can talk about one of my favorite places on earth.
Yeah.
And it's like, to me, so easy, right? Because it's just like it's right there in my
Mm.
heart. I want to go back there like now.
Well, I want to go there from reading your book. So
Oh,
I read it and I was
it-
like, oh my goodness, this place is amazing. I just, yeah.
you know what? It really is. From the high Atlas mountains to the seashore to the Medinas, there's magic everywhere you go. A different kind of magic, like every aspect of it, it's so different. It's almost like you cross into a different country every time you go into a different region. It's just literally magical.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I think what I found so amazing was when you were talking about the Medina. I found I often imagined it most from Bee's point of view, which is interesting because she is blind.
Right.
It's just, it comes to life through her, the sound she hears, the way she's pushed back against the wall, and you imagine these thousands of people, the donkeys rushing past, the children are everywhere, people are grabbing her, she can smell things, touch things. I just found that the whole space came to life through her. And I guess for me, one of the questions I had was, did you do a lot of research by talking with people that had sight impairment, or other people that might have been blind, to go into that? Because you had just managed to capture that feeling so well. Like, I felt as a reader that I was listening to this place through this woman's thoughts, sense.
Right.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Well, I'm really glad you asked this question, because it's my favorite story. So, Bee and Charlie are first introduced in Island on the Edge of the World, and I love Bee. I mean, I like Charlie too, but I love Bee.
Yeah.
And I like, she's somebody you want to go on vacation with, right? Like, she is so cool.
Definitely.
And so, right. So I always walk in the footsteps of my characters when I have the book somewhat storyboarded out, and I know the direction that the direction that everything's going to go. And it was right before, about 10 days before was leaving for Morocco, and I'd rented this really two palatial riads in different areas of the Medina and Fez, because a riad, a large, giant, palatial home that feels, it's so big. The ceilings are, I mean, they're just huge in behind these walls. And so I'd rented this and I was all ready to go. And my research partner had a medical emergency. And I was absolutely freaked out. I mean, literally, because I'd also read that the riads were haunted. And so
No.
think about is, oh my goodness, I do not want to go into this Medina, first of all, that's so confusing and you're constantly lost, and be in this, I mean, in this big Riyadh by myself. That would my heart was racing, and it just made me nervous thinking about it. So I put out an SOS to my girlfriends. It's like I needed somebody who could drop everything and go with me, because it was literally 10 days. So I had two girlfriends, one from London that came in, and one of my neighbor here in Mexico, a Canadian, who joined me. So when we walked in, because I'd been to Fez before, but I'd never been there from a blind person's perspective. And so trying to find that was, I really was focused on that. But when I walked into the Medina, the vibration of the energy around you and everything was so loud, so chaotic. The donkeys are coming at you. There's donkey poop that you're trying to, avoid. The steps are uneven. Everything. I'm thinking there's no way B is going to be able to manage this. Like I thought I had made the world's biggest mistake. So then when we were walking from the gate, the blue gate, into the Riyadh, which is about a 30-minute walk, we got there and my girlfriend, Linda, her knee was about this big. It was huge. She had just come off a knee surgery about 6 weeks before that. She looked at me, she says, Deb, I don't know how I'm going to manage it in Fez. Like, I feel like might be damaging myself. And I'm thinking, I don't know how you're going to manage it. And I don't know how B's going to manage it. Like, I was just like overwhelmed. And the cute little manager guy, he says, oh, don't worry. And gives Linda a glass of wine and off he went. The next thing we know, in comes a very handsome man and a wheelchair. So we were literally able to put Linda in the wheelchair. And I told her to close her eyes. She spent all of Fez with her eyes closed. Like she probably saw nothing. So it was really cool. What are you feeling? What are you seeing? How does it feel? She goes, something furry. Yeah, it was amazing because it just happened. Like it was not planned. I would love to take credit for B really having the experience, but it was because of Linda. And then I could hop in the wheelchair because the Medina's chaotic. You can't close your eyes in the middle of a Medina and see what it feels like, but I could hop in the wheelchair and take a spin, right? And close my eyes, and like it became so different. You hear things, feel things. All of a sudden something furry is on your leg, right? It's because a cat just passed by. It was a blessing. Poor Linda's knee, I felt bad. But oh my goodness, it was perfect. It was perfect.
And it came across, I have to say, I did remember the bit with the cat, and I was thinking, yes, I could just imagine how gross it would be suddenly feeling something furry.
Right? And just the, donkey poop, right?
Oh, everywhere. Gross. It's funny you said the thing about the haunted. I loved the whole mystical element. So going to see the witch doctors and the jinn living in the down the drains. So
right.
Did you know a lot about that before you went to Morocco, or is that something you kind of picked up as you were there?
No, I've always been like, if the Zanzibar wife, I went to one of the most, they say, National Geographic says one of the most haunted places in the world. And it's where the birthplace of the jinn. So I really got my jinn knowledge from the jinn place, right? And I find jinns absolutely fascinating. I find that whole I find all of it just, I can't get enough of it actually,
Yeah,
and here in Mexico, we call them duendes, like little spirits. Like I always think in this room when I'm videotaping, like if I wanted to record this myself, there's all of a sudden this weird sound. And I keep saying, I know there's duendes in this room. It's like, okay.
They're just messing with you. They're like, right about.
Yeah, it's like I can't record anything. It's weird.
Interestingly enough, about Mexico, I was going to ask you briefly. I know that when you came back from Afghanistan, you came to America initially and then went to Mexico. And you wrote your book, the second memoir you wrote, The House on Carnaval Street.
Right.
So I guess I wanted to know a little bit about the culture shock that you would have experienced going from obviously a very different culture of Afghanistan back to America and then changing again to Mexico. What was that like?
It was, the reverse culture shock. It was tough going back to the States. I think that it wouldn't have mattered. You're not in Afghanistan for as long as I was without suffering from PTSD. There's just no way. I had, somewhat of volatile situation with an ex-husband there. And so mine was tough. And so, but I didn't even, you hear about PTSD and I thought, yeah, I knew everybody says you have to really watch for signs of it. We all have it when we come back. And I definitely, I was no matter where I would have been that first year, I would have been miserable. Right. And, but when I was there, I went to Morocco. And when I was in Morocco, and I think this is probably why it's so near and dear to my heart, when I stepped foot in Morocco, I had this really heaviness from leaving Afghanistan because I didn't want to leave, right? I loved it there so much. And when I went to Morocco, everything lifted. Like I thought, wow, this is what it feels like to feel normal. Like I had not felt normal. There was something about I don't know what it was. It was just maybe some of the chaos, maybe some of the people and the culture. But I knew then that I wasn't completely broken, right? Like you think, am I ever going to be normal or feel normal again? It's like grief, right? It's like when I was grieving the loss of Afghanistan, and grief, it takes time, but for the first time I felt normal. And then I literally was going to move to Morocco. That's where I was going to go. And I thought, you know what, let me check out Mexico before I make that move. My kids are in the States, my mom was in the States, just a little bit closer for me. And I came down to Mazatlán. I fell in love with it. I had that same feeling that I did when I was in Morocco, and I was sold. Like I came down here for 4 days. I think within 2 of the 4 days, I bought my house. Like I was in. Yeah.
And it just made you feel alive in that same way.
I felt different. Yeah. Yeah, it's a real healing atmosphere. The Mexican culture is beautiful. Number one, it's friendly. I'm on the seaside. It's gorgeous here, and the people are beautiful. They're just beautiful. And I have now 4 Mexican grandchildren.
Oh,
so my son is here too. My son moved down here. Yeah. So like I have a full house. This room, my little haunted room here, is normally full of children homeschooling now.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Because
they haven't gone back to school yet.
So your son is living really close to you? Or?
My oldest moved here about a year after I did, just to visit, and then fell in love, married, have all kinds of babies, and it's all good.
Beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. Like it's a happy ending. Like I have my happy ending. I'm so happy for that. I feel so lucky every day. And I work with my daughter-in-law. I have a little spa on the beach. And my daughter-in-law is with me. She works with me. It's a family operation. It's wonderful.
Oh, it's beautiful. That's lovely.
Yeah, it really feels good.
Yeah, and it gives you back that joy, because I know that from everything I've read about you, you were very passionate about, because you went over to Afghanistan as a humanitarian mission. Is that
right? Yeah.
And so you started the Oasis Rescue. It's based there. Is that correct?
Well, it's a nonprofit, right?
Yeah.
So it's based in the United States.
Okay, yeah.
Right, right. But
And
it
so,
was originally to help fund the beauty school, right? To raise money
yes.
for that. But now doing not the same thing, but we still raise money to teach the girls, send them to school versus putting a school in. And like all the staff at the salon, they're all, we do all in-house training, right? So it's still being able to still do what I love to do. I love the profession of a hairdresser. I love that industry.
Yeah.
I always have. I mean, it's been part of my life forever. I was like 3 years old when my mom started her salon. So I've been raised in a beauty shop. And
Yeah.
that's why B and Charlie, right?
Yeah, the beehive.
They're hairdressers. I thought, you know what? Let's bring it home. Let's
Yeah.
because I'm a hairdresser. My mom's a hairdresser. My son Noah, who's here, is a hairdresser. A terrible one. You never want him to cut your hair, but he's a hairdresser. So like we've all been raised in the salon. My grandchildren are raised in the salon. I'm raised in the salon. Noah and Zach have been raised in the salon. So it's just who we are,
Yeah.
literally in our DNA.
And it's a beautiful universal language because everybody goes to the hair salon somewhere,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
you can carry it all over the world. So that's lovely.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so back to your characters then, thinking about B again. I often hear when I listen to other authors talk or when I read things that they say that they feel their characters whisper to them in their heads or they kind of hear them telling them their stories. I was wondering for you if you find that your characters talk to you in that way or whether it's more about the places that you go to that spark that story.
You know, it's really weird. I'm a dreamer, right? Like I dream, like at night. And I sometimes they hit me in my sleep. It's so weird. Like I will be on going one way with, and obviously it's your subconscious, right? But I'll be
Yeah.
going one way, or maybe it's not, I don't know. But I'll be I'll be going one way with a character, and then all of a sudden, like I have this dream, this vivid dream about like, this isn't this, I had one character that said to me, you got it all wrong. This is not who I am. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's like, no, he goes, like, I'm sorry. It's not, you don't know me. You don't know me like you should know me to make, I it was really weird. And I was kind of distressed over it because I thought, wow, I don't know what to do with this. But yeah, so they do. Uh, you can't have, be and Charlie weirdly feels so real. I feel like I should be text messaging them and saying, "Hey, what's up?" And but I don't want their journey to end, right? Like they just feel like real people because they're the kind of people I'd want to be around.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I feel that way. I was reading B and I was like, oh, I want to be best friends with her. She is amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
She is. Like she is. I can see B. I could see like I could watch a TV series with B in it. Like I could do anything with B in it would be fun. Like anything.
100%.
Travel would be, watch her on TV, whatever. She is so amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I love her. She's like won me over.
Yeah, me too. And she just keeps getting better.
Yes, yeah. As the book progresses, you're just slightly more in love with her as a person than you were at the start. You're just like, oh, I need to be with you all the time. I need you to be enwrapped in all these characters' lives just so I can hear more about you. So I guess one other thing I was thinking as I read the book, one thing I really truly noticed was how much culture, language, and tradition was steeped through the book. So, in particular, one that stuck out to me, which I really was fascinated by personally, was close to the start when they're talking about the door handles on the knockers on the door, and they talked about how they make a different sound because it was so that the women in the house knew whether or not to answer the door, because if it was a male they shouldn't, and if it was a female it was okay. And I just thought to myself, my gosh, you have so much knowledge about their language and their culture in Morocco. How did you go about doing that? Did you have main contributors that provided you with background information about their culture?
Well, the first thing that happened was, you know, I'd always wanted to do a book set in Morocco. It's just not that easy, right? You can't say, oh, let me do a book that's set in Morocco. You have to have the right story. You have to have the right people involved in your story. And so I was introduced to a Moroccan American woman, and whose father was a director of prisons. She lived on the grounds of a prison. Her family was different, obviously, than Amina's in the book. But she went to school in France. She married her American husband. It wasn't a secret from her family. But so she was like so important of a resource. And so she stayed on with the book from beginning to end. She was a consultant for the entire thing because she was, you know, Amina was inspired by her and her life. And, you know, and so it's like, you know, is this real? Would this really happen? You know, that sort of thing. You need that. And then, but when I was in Morocco, I always surround myself with people who have a lot of knowledge about the country. And although like a research trip, trust me, we had fun. Like me and my girlfriends, we had more fun, and it's one of my best trips I've, like, just in general ever with these women. I had so much fun. But it's work, right? Because you're videotaping, your audio, and you're taking pictures, and you're asking questions constantly. You know, whether it's your taxi driver, whether it's just, you know, your tour guide, whatever, you know, whatever guide you have, everything, you're constantly asking questions. And then, you know, when you leave, these people have to come with you in a sense. And so then you have to bring them on as consultants. Like, for instance, the High Atlas Mountains, that area is the Amazigh or the Berbers. And then you have the Arab Moroccans. So you have these two absolutely completely different cultures and people groups. And so in order to know the truth of this, you have to work with both of them, right? And so that was fantastic. Plus, you need to, because this was women, right? A lot of women, you needed to work with females. It's really interesting, and how so many people get involved. Like, it takes a village. In my situation, doing books the way I do them, it takes a village to do a book and to do it properly, right? I mean, you have to have sensitivity readers. You need to be careful. You need to know the people have to be involved.
Yeah, 100%. And that comes across because it is truly embedded throughout your book, which is beautiful because I learned so much about the culture that I had no idea about. So thank you. Thank you so much for the gift.
I'm so glad you enjoyed it. That's wonderful to hear, really.
So you touched briefly on the Atlas Mountains. I know that you knew about the marriage festivals before you went, because you kind of timed your trip around the marriage festival.
Right.
How did you hear about them? And then can you just kind of explain what it was like? Because it sounds amazing.
Well, you know, it's really funny because the one thing that most of my books have are two locations, right? They always have, the main location and then kind of a sub location. And so I'm thinking, what kind of other location? This is like early on, right? And I'm literally going through like Lonely Planet, and I'm reading anything and everything I could get my hands on. And I am looking at the map, going where, because I love Fez. But then when I came upon Imishil and the marriage festival, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This is fantastic. How could I have gone through my entire life and not known about a festival about love? And so that was it. Like that was it. That's what sealed the deal to be able to do the book in Morocco. And so, but finding out how, I had to find somebody, there's no dates. Like they say, well, it's at the end of harvest. Well, when is that? And so I can't tell you how many tickets were changed because they would say, oh, it's going to be on the 21st, 22nd, 23rd. And then I booked my ticket. No, it's going to be on the 24th, 25th, 26th. Oh my goodness. I changed my ticket so many times, but I made it. And going up there was this weird feeling. I was watching some video the other day. I recorded everything, like everything from beginning to end. And there was one video I'm saying, as we're driving to the festival, I said, there's something very reminiscent that reminds me of Afghanistan. There was something about, like everything about this area, along with just the sheer dust and, very tribal and everything. And I thought, and when I was driving, I could feel like I felt like I had come home. And it was so, like, I almost cried, right? Like it felt like that. It's like, I feel like there's something so familiar for me there. And so, as it was a little bit of a culture shock for my friend Linda, because she had never seen this. For me, I'm like in my element. It's like, yeah, I'm home. I know how this works. I know what to do. And so, but it was like a giant flea market, huge, circled by mountains, dusty and windy. It could be hot, it could be cold. It was just all over the place. Smells of kebabs and donkeys and camels, and you could buy a pair of blue jeans. You could get makeup. You could get honey, and you could find a wife or a husband all in one shot. Like this was the 3 days that young people, families come from all over the region, all over the Atlas Mountains, and they come there so that they can buy and sell, right? And, they're bringing their camels and they're bringing their donkeys, or they're buying them. And these young people are looking for their partner or prospective partner, because their village is small, right? They're very remote. It's very remote. And so they are out there. Everybody's looking for love. It is just bizarre to watch. I'm right now going through all my video, and it's like you could see the love, or the, everybody kind of winking and, a little nod. And, because in the past they would, because there's this Romeo and Juliet legend, warring tribes and all. And, they wind up killing themselves by drowning themselves in a lake of tears that formed these two lakes. Right. So, so this was they created this festival so that the village, so they never felt that loss again. So that on these days, these kids, basically young people, have the freedom of choice, of freedom to find the person that they want as their match or the mate. And so now it used to be you would go on day one, you would look, day two, maybe you would find somebody possibly on day one or two, and then day three you would get married. But now I think it's a little bit, I don't think it happens as much. It can happen like that.
Yeah.
But I think nowadays it's more, they meet each other and then they take their time and go back to their villages and, text message and whatever. And then eventually but it all goes through the family. And then often then they come back the next year to marry.
And it's so beautiful. It's such a lovely thing that they can meet people because, like you said, they are so remote up there. And I don't think after reading it, I went and Googled it, like Google Maps, the Atlas Mountains, because I didn't really know what it was going to look like. I couldn't imagine it in my mind until I really went and saw it, because I'm seeing these little snapshots from what you've described of the festival. So seeing how remote everyone is quite
right.
It is.
Yeah. You know what I've been doing? If you follow me on Instagram, I've been taking 60-second vignettes, and all from the trip from the very beginning. That's why I'm going through all this footage, right?
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. And so you can see it, right?
Like
I just I just posted the cloak that Ishmael puts on Amina towards the end of the book, right? So I have I have a young woman with her father shopping for this cloak. And it's so sweet. It's so sweet because she either is getting married or it's a sign that she wants to get married.
Ready. She's prepared.
So yeah, so it really is nice to look at all these little 60-second little windows into the world, so to speak.
It's amazing. Oh, so amazing. So I was going to ask you as well, do you have a favorite section of the book that we haven't discussed, and possibly even would be willing to share a little bit of it with our listeners if you have it available to you?
You mean like
I'm putting you on the spot, Deborah.
Yeah. You know what? I don't even know where it is in the book, so I can't read it to you. But I will tell you, literally, I laugh out loud every time I'll read. I don't really reread my books that much, right? Because you've kind of been living it for such a long period of time. But because it reminds me of my trip with my girlfriends, I've read it and it just makes me smile, right? And the hammam scene with B.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness. That was I have, and for anybody who doesn't know what a hammam is, it's basically public bathhouse where strangers scrub you down and remove like your skin, or in my case, I felt like I was raw at the end. But I had done all my best throughout my entire life not to public bathe. Like, that's something I've just never wanted to do. But I knew B was going to have this experience. And I'm like, oh, goodness. I said to my girlfriends, I says, you know what? I'm not doing this thing alone. We're doing it together. And so the two girlfriends didn't know each other. They knew me. So here we are all like little ducks in a row, standing there butt naked with each other, being doused with water, slippering all over the floor, like, oh my goodness, being scrubbed by strangers, howling with laughter, like literally could not have been, we were so loud. We actually got shushed at one point, but that's my favorite scene because when I read be that was our experience, right? And it was so much fun. It was funny. And after a while it's like, it is because I had to go to a bunch of them to see the differences and really understand it better. Oh my goodness, I literally had no skin left at the end.
Well, that was very much what I remember from the book.
Yeah, exactly.
Just the stripping of the skin.
Oh, geez.
So before I take questions from the audience, I thought I would ask Deborah what your plans are next. So what are you working on now, or what are you planning to work on next?
Well, I've had a story that I've been working on. I mean, I know the story from beginning to end. I've been kind of had it in my head since probably 2008, 2009. And it's the story. I would really like to do this story with B and Charlie. I want them to come along on this venture. And it's a story that's kind of really dear to me. It's a story between my mother and I. And so, but I don't want to do it in a nonfiction way. I want to fictionalize it and change things and stuff like that. And so, but I also, it's about location, right? My mom, I brought my mom here. Actually, I wound up kind of taking her, she had dementia. And so I kind of absconded with her and got her to Mexico so she was in a safe environment, and which she wasn't at the time. And so I want to call it Stealing Mom, right?
Oh,
I know, and it's a beautiful story. And so I had her here. I wanna tell a story similar to that, but in a Latin culture because that was what I experienced. But I'm thinking possibly Colombia. I don't necessarily because I want to change a lot of things in the story, and I think Colombia might be a really cool place to have a story. But I got to get there, right? So I'm just waiting.
Yeah, 100%. Well, actually, it's interesting that you say that because one of the questions from Pauline was actually the COVID, with the COVID situation, making things so difficult with no travel. How have you been dealing with that? So that's Pauline's question.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is I took one small trip and I turned 60 in October, the end of October. And so I took one small trip to this little mountain village up in the mountains here in Pátzcuaro, Mexico, for the Day of the Dead. And
amazing.
I love the Day of the Dead. And that's what I wanted to do for my 60th. And I knew that everybody was going to be, dead where I was going because I was going to the cemeteries. So it was really easy to, do this trip and I knew there was going to be nobody there. And so it was stunning. It was beautiful. And, I was able to keep safe and, so I had one small travel fix and,
it's keeping you going for the time being.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed, soon.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll move on to the next question. So from Marion, she said, your first book, the Kabul Beauty School, was nonfiction. Did you always want to write fiction, or did you develop a love of writing from your memoir?
I developed a love of writing from the memoir. After the Kabul Beauty School, I wanted to continue with another book about Afghanistan, right? I felt like I had this window with my coffee house, right? That was so unusual. But I just did not want to go the whole route of nonfiction. I could have, but I wanted to change. I wanted a happy ending. I wanted things to go a certain way. And I could tell harsh stories without it, interfering with other people's lives. And so, yeah, so I really started to I do enjoy writing fiction a lot. And that's why with the book I want to work on, there's a lot of it that's my story and my mom's story, but yet I want to make it a little different, right? And
Yeah,
so it just feels almost easier to do it in a fiction format.
especially when you have characters that you love and know. Like you said, you feel like you're friends with Charlie and B. So sharing
Yeah,
your mom's story and your story with them, it's almost
yeah.
in with friends.
Well, I can see B already being my mom's friend.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like I
yeah,
can see that. Like I could see that. And so I want B to be my mom's friend,
yeah.
which is, you know what I mean? Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Good way to tell that story.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so the next person is anonymous, but they said sometimes people talk about women in cultures like Afghanistan or Morocco as victims that need saving by people from Western cultures. Is this true in your experience?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I I think that there's ways that we can assist them. Like I think education, like for the Afghans. I mean, I don't think you save anybody, right? But I think you can educate them. I think it's really good to, if especially if you educate a woman in hairdressing. This is my perspective on it. It's a career, it's a job, it's a education, it's a trade that nobody can take from them. Number one. So nobody, husband they don't like or a husband they do like or whatever, nobody can take that from them. And it's a profession that they can do with or without children. They could do it with or without being able to read. Like say for instance, I could have, if you taught them to sew, sewing's fantastic, but yet a man can also sew. And
Yeah,
so I often saw men would then, because they have more freedom in the culture, that they were able to take the jobs, right? Because a woman isn't maybe doesn't want to work in the shop. She wants to just work with women as a female tailor. But with hairdressing, a man can't work in a beauty shop. Like a man can't do women's hair. So it was like this real nice, safe thing. In the in Morocco, I didn't deal with that aspect of it. That wasn't what this book was about. That
yeah,
wasn't,
not at all.
yeah. And so, I mean, I think that, yeah, I know what she's talking about, the great white savior sort of thing.
Mm.
And I think that that's not the way things, I mean, the world has been changing. And
Mm.
I think the way aid is done is changing.
And I think as well, what you're saying and what your mission was in a sense when you went there and what you put in place wasn't it wasn't a savior thing, it was an empowering thing. You were
Yeah, it's educating.
yeah, it's a different thing.
I
It's not
was sharing what has saved me.
yeah,
Like hairdressing was always my strength because I was a single mom. I could feed my kids, I could educate my kids, I could clothe my kids. I could take my kids on vacation. And it was all because hairdressing. And hairdressing always provided for me. And I always said to my girls, I said, listen, you know what? Wow. I mean, the one thing I always did say, it's like, your husband does not need to know how much money you make. That was,
nice.
I said that, I mean, hairdressers were cash, right? A lot of times.
Yeah.
And so that was me, right? That was
Yeah.
me. It's like I was able to stuff my pockets with money to make sure my kids could have Christmas.
Yeah.
If I was in a marriage that wasn't healthy or whatever, like it was a way for me. It was my survival. And
Yes.
so I think that's really, I think that's where my heart was coming from.
Yeah. And share
Yeah.
your passion and your love and the
Yeah.
saved you. And I think that's beautiful. So,
Thank you.
okay, so the next person, Stephanie, has said, I adore your work, have read them all aside from your latest work, have so many questions, but one thing I'm interested in is your writing process, if you have a process, and what do you do if you have writer's block?
You know what? My process is, I don't know, every author is different. So, I mean, just a real short version. My process is number one, I have to find a story in a location. And then I think what I do is, because I am a hairdresser, I collect people. Like I collect people and I stuff them in, an envelope, and I put them aside on my computer, and I collect stories. And I audition the characters, and I'll audition the stories to see if, and eventually that all that, like the Imishale Wedding Festival, that was the last piece of that puzzle that all of
Yeah.
a sudden, I mean, B and Charlie were the very original. It's like, I would really like to have two hairdressers. I really think that would be fun. And, so it started like that. And then once, then it's a lot of storyboarding, right? Before you even get writing. And if whatever block you have, you just have to move past it. And for me, the block gets lifted often when I get on ground, and when I get to the location. It's like, oh, now I see it. Now I get it. You can't let that weigh you heavy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I am in an area in Mexico. It's like I live literally on the street. Like I can open my front doors. I can hear the sounds of the streets. And often that's the that's the locations I'm in, these louder, very colorful locations. So I can often like help that along by just opening my doors.
Letting
So
blood in.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so Anonymous has said, when you're not writing, what are your favorite things to read?
I love uh fictional history. I love it. I love everything I really like Lisa C's work. She writes a lot of stuff that all her books take place in China. And it's all Chinese based. She's Chinese American, and I love that I'm learning something, and she has these great characters that are based on real people or on a real thing. And so I love her work. I like, I really need to get his name right. I'm going to tell you the name of the book. It's called The Hummingbird's Daughter. His name is Luis. You're, I don't know. I'm going to call him Luis. Luis is one of my favorite authors. It's a long Mexican name. That's why he's Mexican American. And The Hummingbird's Daughter is my ultimate favorite book. If you ever get a chance to read that book, and it starts right here where I'm at. The book literally starts in Sinaloa and it goes all the way to Tucson. And it is, I find, the most amazing book. And so I like to feel the cultures. I literally started reading that book, or listening to it actually. I was driving, and from Mazatlán to Tucson, and the smells, were coming in, and I could see the landscape change at the same time I was driving. And in the book, it was like a magical moment. Like it was really, really good.
I have to read it. I haven't read that one.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Okay, so I think we'll have time for one extra question. So sorry to everyone that we don't get to your questions, but we're running a little short on time. So Deborah, you've traveled to so many parts of the world, but have you ever been here to visit us in Australia?
You know what? It's such a sad question because I have not. I had hoped, my goal was to be there now, right? I really wanted, I had talked to briefly to my publisher. I said, listen, I was thinking about popping over to Australia, maybe time it out to when the book is launching. Oh, if you do, that would be great. We can arrange events. So I had talked to my partner, Dennis. I said, what do you think? And so we were game, we were in, and then COVID hit. So I had definitely planned, and I might have been in this beautiful library, but
you're always welcome. Whenever you can get over here, you're always welcome to our library.
I can't wait. You know what? It is definitely a priority, especially since I've been doing, like I've done a lot of events in this last month, and I have, like, there's people now that I feel like are like my friends, right? It's like, okay, I really need to get there.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
beautiful.
I
here.
definitely do.
Although I do want to come to Mexico, so there you go.
Okay, and you know what? Mi casa, su casa, right? My house is your house. So
I'll have to come and
you are
see
always welcome, and I will show you everything. If you come during the Day of the Dead, I'll bring you up to Pátzcuaro, and you will have the most enlightened experience.
That would be magical. The Day of the Dead is my dream. So.
Oh, it's amazing.
Okay, so right before we go, Deborah, I just thought I'll do a very short rapid fire round. So if you're anything that comes to mind, I promise it won't be
I'll just say next.
Favorite food?
Pizza.
Oh, yum. What are you most proud of?
My children and grandchildren.
One thing that you would tell your younger self?
I would say love yourself and your body the way it is, and just love yourself.
That's a good message, definitely. What do you love most about libraries?
All the books.
Right answer. And finally, Jane Eyre or Wuthering Heights?
Oh, Jane Eyre.
I was like, I'm always torn with that one. I'm not particularly on either, but probably Jane Eyre. Okay, so I just wanted to thank you so much, Deborah, for your time today and for your amazing stories that you've shared with us, and also for this fascinating and amazing and just beautiful book that I got to read, and that hopefully everybody else.
Yours is going in and out. I'll show mine.
Thank you. And I suggest everyone rushes out and gets a copy, because one thing that I'm going to go and do right now is make myself some of those awesome Moroccan recipes at the back of the book.
Oh, I know, the cookies.
I thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah. I'm going to make those cookies this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I'm planning to do it this evening.
It was such a pleasure. Thank you. You're such a great interviewer. Thank you so much. It was really, really nice having this conversation. It was like a couple girlfriends just chit-chatting.
That's how I felt. So thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much.
And I'll say it in the words of Amina. I'll try anyway. Ma salem, au revoir, and goodbye.
Aw, very good. And I don't know if there was questions that that you couldn't get to. But if anybody wants to ask me any questions, they can always go and message me on Instagram or on Facebook. I'm very, very active. And if anybody ever has a book club and they want me to join, I'm in. I love stuff like that. Absolutely. I'm always game.
Sounds good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks so much again, Deborah. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.